They say we're loud, opinionated, afraid, telling us to hush, dim our historical light. But darlings, we're the heartbeat, sharp and keen, unveiling the truth behind the silver screen.
History Harpies, hear us.
Hi, and welcome to History Harpies.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Christine. And this is episode 8.
Can you believe it, Christine, that we've made it this far?
I can't. I am very proud of us, though.
I know. It is an amazing achievement. Not just that we've gotten to 8, but that we are also doing it over the summer.
Over the summer.
Off contract.
Off contract, just because we are so dedicated to the pod.
Absolutely. And to our, what I think are now 7 or 8 listeners.
Excellent. 8 listeners for 8 episodes.
That's amazing. That really is amazing. So our theme this week is going to be beach trash, island trash,
bikinis,
but however you want to think about it.
Relaxation.
It's inspired by what is probably number 1 in the zeitgeist at the moment, which is Love Island. And I started watching Love Island while at the beach with my 16-year-old daughter who tuned me into it, and I told Christine we've got to go with this, and we've got to go with some other texts that might work in conversation with Love Island and all things beach as we are now in mid-July.
So before we start, I am going to ask Lauren. Lauren, talk a little bit about how much you love the beach and your beach experiences.
Okay, so if you know me, you know that there is nothing I love more than the beach. In fact, I'm very lucky to be married to someone who loves the beach as much as I do, not just in a figurative sense, but being in the water and on the physical beach for 10 to 12 hours a day. I do not like people who are at the pool or inside or even under umbrellas. I can't stand it. I want full sun. I want to look at the ocean. I want to watch people walking around, read my books, chit chat, and do my thing. And that is my beach experience, and I'm sticking to it. And I'll probably get skin cancer very soon, but so be it. It has always been my favorite place on the planet is the beach. And again, I'm lucky to have beach DNA in me. My grandfather and parents are beach people and water people and swimmers, and my father-in-law was a lifeguard, and so we got roots in the beach.
Roots in the beach, which actually is a nature metaphor. I think maybe is a little mixed, but
mixed.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
How about you?
Well, I grew up on the coast of Maine, and so it was very easy to go to the beach. But of course, the problem with going to the beach in Maine is that the water is freezing and very often has a lot of seaweed. But I will say it builds character, because if you can go swimming at the beach in Maine in the summer, then you are building your strength, both physical and mental. And so I grew up going to the beach too, loved going to the beach. I think it's funny. I don't think either you or I has spent a ton of time going to the beach in South Carolina. But I will say I love South Carolina beaches. They're wonderful.
They are mid to me only because it is so hot, it is so windy, and the water is so warm.
See, I like that.
But one thing you might not know about me is that I went to camp in Maine for a summer.
I did know that.
But that I swam in a freezing cold lake every morning, miles and miles and miles of swimming. I don't know why exactly, but as you say, it builds character.
It builds character.
So I'm actually a terrific swimmer, although you would never know it looking at me now, sitting on the beach and never swimming. But yes, I'm a very good swimmer, and I will brag about that. Or at least I used to be. But the beach is fantastic. I will also give a shout out to the movie Beaches, which is something that I can never turn off when it comes up on cable, and is just fantastic. And it has Atlantic City in it, which is my, beach of, not Atlantic City proper, but the Atlantic City area and the Jersey Shore, which is my beach staple. So all things beach are good to me.
Well, I have never seen the movie Beaches, as I think I've told you.
What
so
a mistake.
when we do a female friendship sequel to our episode a few episodes ago, I will watch beaches.
Okay,
But of course, there are so many great beach movies.
So many great beach movies.
And we will be talking about a couple
so
a little
many
later.
And so many trashy and horrible beach movies.
So many
But-
trashy and horrible beach movies. And so this might be a nice segue to start talking about something that is not a movie, but a series, as Lauren mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit about Love Island.
Okay.
USA.
Okay,
Not
yeah,
the
not
UK
the UK
version.
Not the UK, USA. Well, here's the thing. I think, well, we both are pretty diehard reality fans.
Very much so.
So Love Island is somewhere in between Temptation Island, The Bachelor, and Bachelor in Paradise, because it's situated on an actual island. And unlike, say, The Bachelor, the regular Bachelor where they travel around, or like Married at First Sight where they live in an
They're just
apartment. This one, they are on the island in Fiji, which is very nice, and they all come together and they couple and recouple, and then other decouple. And other hotties come in during the show to tempt them away from their
The bombshells.
and the Casa d'Amore.
See, I'm watching season 1, which does not have the Casa
So Casa d'Amore,
Or at least not so far.
All right, so
in my watching.
So Casa Amore. I'm sorry.
Casa Amore. Casa Amore.
That is a place they go in the middle of this series when they're already coupled to meet new singles. So they're already in relationships, but then they break off and then they go into this Casa Amore where they meet new hot people that they might spark with.
Okay.
So the question is, are they going to couple with the people from Casa d'Amore or go back to the people that they have already formed some sort of relationship? So it's a twist.
I'm sorry, wait, I need to ask a detail since this is not in the season 1, which I'm watching. Okay, so other people are living in this casa, or it's just a place for dates?
It's a moment.
Else.
It's a moment.
Oh, it's a moment.
Yes.
Okay.
So they could go in there and they spend a couple nights meeting these new people, and then they have to decide whether they like the new people or whether they want to go back to the other people. And the other people are also the girls are meeting new guys, guys are meeting new girls.
Yes. Okay.
So do they want a casa person or do they want an original person? But of course, all of this is just based on conversation. I mean, there are no like dates. They don't really go anywhere. I mean, once in a while they'll like leave the premises, but they're just like hanging out, drinking, and making out, and then like kind of fighting, and that's it.
Okay, so I do have to ask, because I will say one of my reactions in watching season 1 of Love Island USA is how it, at one and the same time, is colossally boring to me.
Right.
But also, I keep watching it. And of course, the reason it's boring is something you just identified, which is it is almost entirely not just conversations,
right,
but conversations that seem to be nothing other than, well, how do you feel about me,
right,
or how do you feel about that other girl, or how do you feel about that guy, or your connection, are you feeling a connection,
and do you want to explore,
and so to me that is so tedious, and then I'm like, I at least want someone to say like, so where are you from, right? Do you have any brothers and sisters?
No.
What do you do for work, right? These like super basic stuff. But all of the conversations seem to be exactly this. Right? Hyper-focused on connection and attraction.
Or the conversations are all about things that have already happened on the show.
Yes,
so
recapping,
there's
rehashing.
some sort of challenge, and then someone got in someone's face, or someone had beef with someone, and the conversation will be about the beef. But it won't be about, right, when my brother had measles, right, I was doing this. No, we're not going to talk about that. So, do you like to cook? Like, no one ever asks anybody about anyone's interest. But the other thing that I find so interesting about Love Island, which I've talked to about with actually all 3 of my children, is girl and bro culture. Which in some ways has morphed into being more important on Love Island than the actual couples. So are you staying true to girl code? Are you staying true to your posse? People are voting the other sex off before they're voting off their friends, when the goal of this is to be in a couple.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the DNA of the show demands violations of the girl code
and
the bro code.
Although, because you're supposed to be, quote, exploring, and like in ways that, you know, you're not quote, locked into a couple until you like declare that to everybody.
Yes.
But if you're exploring, you can make out with 3 other guys, and some girl can't get mad at you if she's your friend because she's exploring too. Okay. And so the question becomes, and this happened with Huda and Shelley, what does, quote, crossing the line entail? Because presumably everyone's allowed to date everybody, but you can't, quote, cross the line. So, you know, Huda was putting her crotch in Ace's face, and that's...
As one does.
Right, and Ace is sort of dating Shelley, but not really. They're not closed off yet, but apparently that was a bridge too far.
Well...
I mean...
Much like Gossip Girl, recording a video of it. Anyway. Well, but here's the one thing that is so striking to me about season 1 is, so, okay, when we have the formation of these couples, and I don't know if this is an anomaly in season 1, but immediately, right, everybody sort of glommed into these sort of quasi, right, like, monogamous relationships,
right,
as if they were all, like, had been married for 15 years or something.
Right.
And so it was exactly that. So the first... Then one woman came in first, right? So one bombshell comes in.
Right.
She comes in, she immediately disrupts a stable couple. But what was so hilarious is that when she came in, the stable couple had literally existed for 24 hours, right? But nevertheless, all the stuff that you're talking about was present, right? Oh my gosh, you know, this couple is breaking up, and how can this guy do this to this girl he's been with for 24 full hours? And it was just so bonkers.
But similarly, okay, so you have this couple, and okay, there's this other couple, and it was Iris and this guy, now I can't remember his name, JP or something, and you're like, oh, these two are lovebirds. They've been together for like 8 days, or who knows. And then America voted JP off. Okay, and seriously, Iris cried for, I don't know, an hour, and then within 2 hours, she's with Pepe, right? So it's sort of like, well, she can be with Pepe because now she's, quote, open again, even though this guy that she was sleeping in a bed with for 9 days just got voted off. So you need to have the code when your quasi-partner is present, but if your partner leaves... or you're still, quote, open, then that's where these boundaries are very fuzzy. So in the most raunchy thing that I saw on the show was the heartbeat challenge, which apparently comes along every season of this trash.
I've not seen it yet, but
so
anyway.
They strap heart monitors onto the people. Every single person on the island needs to come out in full-out stripper gear and basically make out with all of the characters, male and female. So to see whose heart got going the most, and then based on whose heart got going the most, I'm not really sure what that leads to. I don't know if you get a prize or money but the basic gist of it is that it's a moment of chaos and also like a moment of anger, and it leads to a lot of beef between the characters because you're kind of like, well, you were supposed to make up with my boyfriend, but not that much. Or
and then your body betrayed what you've been saying.
Or we were in a threesome, but you participated too much in the threesome, or something like that. Now, the crazy thing about My Love Island, which is on Peacock, so therefore has no holds barred. No boundaries. And also the other thing that's in my mind kind of hilarious about it is like, every word they say it's sort of like a Nora. I mean, every word they say is fuck. So you're just kind of like, oh, this fucking thing and this fucking girl and blah, blah, blah. So they're in this room and the beds are all together. So everyone in a couple is in a bed next to another bed.
Yes, this is the way it is in season 1.
So it's
but they're not doing anything. They're not. They're like making out.
My people are doing stuff.
Yes,
okay.
This is not.
I mean, they're doing stuff. We don't see it, but they're under blankets, and you like hear muffled noises.
And I assume there's like night cam, night vision cam,
and then there's the hideaway hut where a couple can go and like really have sex and also not be on camera. Or at least we don't really see all of it, or I don't know.
Yeah.
My biggest question about Love Island, how did these people know what to pack? Because on the one hand, you've got girls wearing a full-on lingerie set with thigh highs and all that. You've also got a lot of knee-high or over-the-knee boots going on, which one wouldn't think to pack to Fiji to wear with a thong.
Yeah.
But that is being worn, okay? There is the strangest... And then there's some girls, not often, but like wearing sweatpants to sleep. So it's sort of a combination of thong bikinis, lingerie, and then these like stripper outfits, which I don't know if they were provided by the show or whether they brought them along. And then like your quote date outfit, which is a variety of
you're sitting on a
thong,
particular couch,
and then like a top and maybe like a little skirt or something like that.
Well, you know, this actually brings up something that I think is so interesting about Love Island, and I assume it's still the case in your season, is that so often you see the girls, right, with no makeup, right? So again, waking up in the morning, right, we see them taking off their makeup at night, right? They're wearing like headscarves, right? They're wearing sort of, you know, again, like sweatpants or whatever. And so one thing that I think is oddly refreshing about it is so you do see these totally like glammed up, right? Hoochie mama dresses, right? And super tons of makeup, right? The fake eyelashes, you know, the hair extensions, the whole thing. But then you also have this sort of this moment, and one of the contestants in season 1 says it explicitly. She says, right, this guy is forced to see me without makeup. I have never wanted a man to see me without makeup before, and I'm so glad that I was sort of forced into this because he's like, oh, I think you're so pretty without makeup, whatever. But that's what I think is so, in some ways, kind of jarring about it as a show. Not necessarily in a bad way, but you see all of these young women who are totally unglammed, right? But then it's like, oh, well, tonight's like, you know, it's nighttime, so time to like super glam up and wear your hoochie mama clothes.
On my season, which is sponsored by Maybelline, there was actual product placement.
Oh,
so you see all the girls putting on their like lash extension by Maybelline, and you see stacks of Maybelline like concealer and blush and stuff like that. And so it's clearly like, and this is the Maybelline blah blah challenge. So there's a lot of interaction with products. But the other interesting thing is you see the girls, quote, get ready in the morning, and the boys bring them their breakfast while they're getting ready. So they have on, like, you know, they're putting their lashes on, or they're putting their, you know, their highlighter on or whatever. And they're also getting these, like, waffles and other things. It's a really interesting juxtaposition of things. But I will say most of the contestants are sleeping with some kind of bonnet or wrap on their head, and the guys too. So there's
taking out the contact lenses, right? You see people wearing their glasses.
A lot going on. Yes, a lot going on at night. So I will say one of the show that I actually prefer, which is Temptation Island, where couples who have been together for years go and are separated and then live with, quote, tempters who try to sleep with them to see if they prefer their real, like, boyfriend at home that's been, like, their boyfriend for 4 years or some, like, person, some, like, slut on the island. And then will they leave with the slut on the island? So that's a question. And some of them do. And then you see what your partner's doing on the island in videos at the bonfire, right? This is all with Mark Wahlberg and other things. So, yeah, check it out. I mean, it's both completely demented, but also pretty fun.
Wait, what was Temptation Island on? Like, was it streaming? Was it?
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, these couples have been together for a really long time. Some of them, and they live together. I mean, they're real couples, but they've decided to take the journey.
And strengthen our relationship.
Yeah, and strengthen our relationship. And have the freedom.
Because that always works out.
It
always works out.
It does.
I'm being sarcastic.
It does.
Well, one thing that I do think is in some ways sort of strange about, again, I'm watching the CBS version of in season 1 of Love Island, but it does seem to, it's not just particularly chaste. I mean, it is chaste, but you do expect, okay, so everyone's walking around their bikinis, right, during the day. By the way, nobody ever seems to eat. There are no meals on Love Island. There are drinks. But I saw one time someone was eating a bowl of cereal, but there's no coffee in the morning. There's no breakfast. There's no lunch. There's no dinner.
Mine has food.
Okay, there's no food visible in season 1. No.
Food becomes
Zero.
controversial because some of the boys they're quote exploring with are making more food for some girls than for others. So it's like, and you gave her a flower on her plate, and her waffle was shaped like her initial. That sort of shit. Okay, so the food becomes a love language.
Well, and obviously then the producers realized that they were losing a pure opportunity, right, to basically create drama by not having food, which is clearly the case in season 1. But, sorry. So they're wearing their bikinis, right? The guys are wearing their bathing suits. The guys are working out, right? Everybody's hot, right? Everybody's hot.
Everybody's hot.
But what's so funny is that you really don't, again, and maybe it's because the first season was on CBS, there isn't this sense, and yes, people are sometimes like, you know, just randomly like kissing each other as part of the games or whatever, but there isn't this sense of like decadence. There's not a sense, people don't even seem to be getting drunk, right? There's not this sense of like people who are out of control. There's not a sense of people who are like, I'm pushing boundaries.
No.
Right? There isn't this like, oh, even again, because it became so monogamous so quickly, even when they had to, say, kiss other people as part of a game, it did immediately fall back into this kind of girl code, bro code. Like, oh, I'm really sorry that... And so there isn't this sense of, like, these are libertines. It is so, again, it's like, we're seeing lots of skin, but it's so chaste at the same time.
And the libertines, I would say, are the Temptation Island tempters. Those are the libertines. Those people come with, like, the whipped cream. They come with the Jello shots. They come with the lap dances. I mean, they're all about just the tempting part. They're not about... But also listening. Oh, I mean, they're there. Like, they're not gonna force themselves on somebody who just wants someone to listen when they gripe about their boyfriend or whatever. They're just there to provide whatever you need. But there's a lot of hedonism, and there's certainly a lot of drunkenness on Temptation Island. Whereas Love Island, I don't see as much. I don't see as much in terms of them like walking around with the drink, those giant goblets. That apparently
much like in Married at First Sight
are like completely like just keep filling, and they put them down and they can never be empty. So you don't get the sense of those enormous like goblets, like from TGI Friday, like those like margaritas, right? That they have,
and you're not seeing people, like doing shots, right, or having like it's so. Again, chaste and very tepid and temperate in that sense. And so I guess then the question is, so what then is the value, other than just having skin, of that fact that they are on an island, right? What are we getting from, if we're not getting this kind of decadent sense, if we're not getting the sense of like we're totally, you know, all bets are off, all rules don't apply because we're in this like quote unquote exotic space, why are we on an island?
Well,
other than bikinis.
This is what I would say with Love Island. Unlike Temptation Island, America votes on Love Island. Okay, so Amaya Papaya, who just won with her paramour, Brian, who of course she got with like in 3 seconds ago. But Amaya has been a fan favorite for a while. Okay. And there are actually posters all over New York for people to vote for Amaya. And it's a thing. Okay, I mean TikTok it's the leading, whatever you would call a headline, I don't really know. Whatever it is on TikTok, search engine crap, Amaya, okay? So people feel a participatory sense of encouraging this awesome girl who was so authentic, and then at the very end, she found her love, who she'll probably never speak to again. Probably not. After the show. But it doesn't really matter. And they split the money, and, you know, that's all good. So I think on Love Island, what to me is appealing is that there's Love Island the show, there's Love Island the TikTok, there's Love Island the voting, there's so many different layers of participation, and that is why people seem to like it. I mean, and you don't even have to watch it, because you can watch all the TikTok clips and the YouTube clips and the forums and whatever, and then people are just talking about these people as if they know them.
Okay, but then still, why isn't it Love Island Ski Lodge? Right? Why isn't it Love Island, again, like Big Brother, where they're just all in an apartment together?
Oh, the skin and the Fiji of it all, and I mean, I would just say that it's much better to watch hot people in bikinis and, you know, again, this beautiful resort and in all of these settings where they get to, you know, they sort of walk along the beach. I mean, not really. They don't even really go.
There's not a lot of beach stuff in season 1.
Horseback riding. That's what's weird to me is, like, again, on some of these other beachy shows, they do more like beachy stuff. They
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
they go surfing, they go
Yeah.
wind sailing or whatever.
Uh-huh.
They do beach things.
Yes.
This one, they sit around the pool and just kind of talk.
Well, that's the announcer in season 1. He actually made a joke about the fact that the pool is never used. Like no one's even swimming, right? But it's just
right.
yeah.
Well, because of the hair extensions, and I would think
That's
also
true.
like the makeup,
wigs,
like,
the makeup,
all of it. I mean,
Yes.
nobody's going to do that much makeup in the morning and then go under the water.
But then they're taking off their makeup at night and doing their whole sort of home style plain thing.
Well, it's been a thing, and I felt like I had to watch it as a reality show person, but also as a podcast person now, and just like get into the vibe of it. And everyone's really talking about it, and it's all over the headlines about Amaya and then the racial slurs.
Yes.
The two cast members with the racial slurs that they pulled off the show, and all that. So it's just been a thing of the summer. I can't say it's a particularly interesting show, but the people were hot, and again, I mean, they were, some of them were pretty sweet, and again, Amaya is a love. She's a doll. There's no question about it. But most of them were nice girls, and they had each other's backs, and the boys did too. And I don't really have much to say about them. Again, the amount of body art is just always surprising to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I'm old. So, like, I just don't know why somebody would want that much body art. But more power to them.
Well, it's interesting that it seems to be a show without, and then we should probably move on soon, a show without sort of super villains, right? And obviously, like, the bombshells coming in could play that role, but as you say, right, there is this sense of sort of girl code that keeps being perpetuated. The last thing I want to say about it, with my much more limited exposure to it, no pun intended, is that there's there's a contestant on season 1 who just like a couple of weeks ago was arrested. Cashel. I don't even remember his last name if I ever knew it. Cashel, who was arrested for like really serious stuff.
In real life.
In real life. Okay. Like DV in front of like a child, like assault, I mean, against his partner. I mean, really ugly stuff.
Okay.
But on the show, and again, the first season came out in 2019, one of the female contestants says, I look at that guy Cashel, I would never sort of think of him as my type, but talking to him, you sort of realize how appealing he is. He kind of draws you in, he's so smooth. And in some ways, Cashel's legal issues notwithstanding, other than showing that, like, these people, you can't know them right at all. But in some ways, I feel that way about the show, right? Where I'm like, it's boring.
Yeah. Well,
But I keep, again, as I said earlier, I keep watching it. And part of it definitely, right, is just the eye candy.
Right.
Absolutely, right? Everyone just looks incredible, and that's nice. But it really is, I'm like, I am simply watching people sit around a pool, having the most inane conversations I have maybe ever heard. But I'm going to keep going.
Yes, and repetitive, right?
Yes.
Did you hear what Huda said to Shelley? It's said by two women over on this side of the pool, and then we hear it again on another side of the pool, but you're still listening. As if you're going to hear something different. But you don't
exciting,
ever.
jarring.
And then eventually when Shelley and Huda do talk, and it's like this huge, escalation, will they talk? And she's like, girl, yeah, I'm okay with you. Like, just don't do it again. And the crazy thing about Love Island is it comes on every night. So I'm still like, it's 9:00, we better watch. And I'm just like, nothing is happening, and yet I'm still watching.
You can't look away.
I can't look away. No, I can't look away. And it is just, again, part of the reality DNA that, you watch it. You watch people marry strangers. You watch people cheat on their, husband of 20 years with someone they just met. And nothing seems to make any sense, but you keep watching it.
You keep watching. And, that is a great moment and a great point that we should move on, I think, to talk about the next thing we were going to talk about. Because we really want to stop watching the next thing, which is the movie Blame It on Rio.
Oh my gosh.
And I think that if we think of Love Island as being, the bikinis, the skin, the beach, the sun, the sand, the pool, but still is sort of super chaste, right?
But you think going into it, it's going to be no holds barred.
You do think it's going to be.
And also because it's Peacock, right? It's like you can show pretty much anything, and they can say fuck all the time, and it's just like no big deal. So then you think this movie from 1984, you think
Blame It on Rio.
Right, you think it's going to be much tamer.
You think it's going to be tamer, and it is so not tame.
Not tame.
Right. But it really does, as we see in the title, right? It summarizes one of the things we wanted to get at with this episode, which is this idea, right, that again, sort of beach life, the bikinis, the sand, that you are in this other context, right? You are pulled out of your regular world. Right. The rules, again, don't apply.
And in
nothing
this case, matters.
Nothing matters. You're exploring, again, everyone's just making these different choices. So for those of you who have been fortunate enough never to watch or see Blame It on Rio, again, this is a movie from 1980.
But if you were born in the 60s or 70s, you would have seen it.
You would have seen it. As I told you, my friend Heidi and I snuck into a showing. It was rated R. We were supposed to go see something else.
Right.
We snuck in. Right. And at the time, I was like, what a fun sex comedy.
And I saw it on HBO multiple times, sneaking in to watch it at night, also thinking, wow, this is this racy,
goofy, fun,
goofy,
sexy.
Look at these girls going on this vacation with their fathers. Wow, I can't believe I'm watching this. Like, there's all these like naked people. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
And then so Lauren and I both rewatched it for the pod, and we both wanted to vomit. And so the basic plot of Blame It on Rio, as Lauren just alluded to, is we have two good friends, fathers, men in their 40s, one of whom is played by Michael Caine, the star of the film, and each takes his daughter on this trip to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil.
Both who have marriages that are on the rocks at the time.
Yes. Michael Caine's character, his wife, has just told him before the trip that she's not going to go. She wants to think about their marriage. So he is shell-shocked. Right. One reason why this movie is memorable for a positive reason is because it was really Demi Moore's first big film. She plays one of the daughters.
Nikki.
And the movie basically devolves very quickly into a kind of, well, technically comedic sex comedy, in that the daughter of Michael Caine's friend, what's her name again? Jennifer begins to pursue Michael Caine sexually. A man she has not only known for her entire life, but whom she refers to as Uncle Matthew. So,
and it is her best friend's father.
Her best friend's father. So it isn't
just
and her father's best friend.
Correct.
Yes.
It isn't just that the dads are best friends. The
yes.
girls
the girls
are
also best friends.
So this foursome with the mothers, presumably, when they were getting along, all hung out together multiple
kind of found
times.
family extended thing.
Yes.
And so we do have as gross as it is, we have a sexual relationship develop between Jennifer and Michael Caine's character Matthew. And he sort of oscillates back and forth between, this is appalling, I can't do this, and let's go have sex again.
Right.
And
you're really hot.
And disgusting hijinks ensue.
Yes.
And so we do have the Demi Moore character who doesn't really have a lot to do.
But she just dates Brazilian guys. Local guys. And also is a sounding board for Jennifer, who's like, should I keep having sex with your dad? And she's like, probably not. And is interestingly not speaking to her friend after this happens. I wouldn't say she's supportive, but she's not as repulsed as we are.
And she does have one short conversation with her father about this relationship that he's having with her best friend, where she says, oh, well, don't hurt her, basically. She's vulnerable and blah, 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 blah. By the way, we should point out that the girls are supposed to be 18 years old. Not older.
Right. 18.
As if someone said, some of the creepy creatives involved in this said, they need to be barely legal, right? Barely legal. But legal. Legal, but barely legal.
Right.
So there are many...
And the men are 43.
Yes. And we are told this explicitly. So we should point out that...
Well, and again, the other thing, which again, I can't unring this bell, and I'm trying to, is one of the first scenes in Rio that we see, okay, which really does set the tone for the whole
Unfortunately.
movie, is you see the two grown men, 43-year-old men, walking along the beaches of Rio. In Rio, it's common to go topless, so they see all these topless women, and then they see more topless women, and they're like oogling these topless women, and then they're like, look at those two hotties, and it is their daughters.
Their daughters.
Their daughters topless.
Topless. Who then go up and talk to their fathers while they are topless.
Right, and then go in the water with their fathers while they're topless.
While they are topless.
And they're all checking each other out, and it is so vile.
Vile. And
no one's like, hey, put on a shirt, or like, what are you doing? Or everyone's like, oh, all right.
And when Michael Caine's character Matthew first has sex with Jennifer, it is because they are at again, very much leaning into this whole idea of like, oh, Brazilian culture is so open and sexy, in this deeply
wedding,
problematic way. They go to a wedding, and to me, again, another crazy, shocking scene. Jennifer is simply talking to Michael Caine's character, and she's like, oh, wait, let's go in the water. Takes off her shirt right in front of him, right? So basically standing there, and he doesn't say, what the hell are you doing? Put your shirt back on, right? He just basically ogles at her boobs. Right. And then they go off, and he puts up a fight for, 10 seconds, and then they do it on the beach.
Right.
And then the rest is sort of history. It is so... The Lolita vibes, right, are so over the top.
They
are.
They
over
are.
the top. And you can almost see it as, I feel like it's kind of an exclamation point, not so much on, say, those fun sex comedies like Porky's that we talked about when we talked about it.
Right.
But to me, it's the last line of those creepy 70s movies that were very Lolita-esque, like foxes, like little darlings, right? The whole stuff where it's like, oh, the 14-year-old, who wants to do it as quickly as possible. And then basically... that, right? The whole thing of like, these are our daughters, they're being sexualized, so gross, so creepy,
but also,
so incesty.
I would say that the father, I can't remember his name, Jennifer's father.
Yeah, the Joseph Bologna character. Okay. I don't remember his name either.
He is like, on the one hand, very protective of her virginity.
Yes, in a gross way.
In his gross way, too.
Yes,
where
exactly.
It's equally as gross as Michael Caine. He's like, she told me we had a pact, and she
would tell me
when she does it, she's going to call me. And then he reads her diary, and it's totally invasive and creepy in a way that just makes you want to throw up.
And this lasts for about half the film, it seems like, where he is trying to find out the identity of the man who has been having sex with his daughter, right? And again, he gets into a couple of fistfights because of it until finally he realizes, or Michael Caine tells him that it's him. So we have that creepy sort of protection of virginity thing. We have, I mentioned to me, the absolute most disgusting moment, even more so than the girls taking their tops off, is when right after having sex, or maybe it's before having sex, Michael Caine says to Jennifer, I was the first man to kiss you. When you were a baby, I kissed your bottom. No, of course, I have to get it out. I kissed your bottom, and I said, I want to be the first man who kisses you there. Now, that's gross, but what Jennifer says after that is, oh, so mean of you to drive a baby wild with desire. Right? So disgusting, so perverted. You want to literally call the cops and say, examine the hard drive of the man who wrote this film. But again, it was Stanley Donen who directed it. This story director.
Yes, on
Stanley
the town
Donen.
And charade and what went
Singing
wrong.
in the rain.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it is deranged. And the other thing that is just so deranged about it, if we think about, a fun sex comedy romp, right? Hijinks ensue. Yeah. It's just so inappropriate and deranged. And this is coming from us, right? Where,
a decent tolerance.
Yeah, we have a pretty decent tolerance. But this isn't, again, you would think, all the talk about grooming and Me Too and things that are across the line. This is so bonkers in terms of fathers, friends, and barely legal girls in Rio just having a good time. But then there's a suicide attempt.
Jennifer
ODs on birth control pills, and we're supposed to think that's funny.
Yeah, very much played for
Are
laughs.
we?
But yeah, I think we are, because there's this dramatic moment, right? But then when the doctor comes out and says, like, oh, but it was birth control pills. And they're all like, she was too stupid to do Seconal or something. And it was, yeah, so played for laugh. And then, of course, right, she immediately falls in love with some
With a
other
new guy.
Like,
she's like, oh, hey, Michael Caine, done with you. I found this new guy like Lorenzo, and he's gonna watch me and Demi for the next week alone in Rio. While y'all like go wherever,
reconcile with your wife or whatever.
Plus, we find out that Michael Caine's friend has been having sex with his wife.
yes.
So
with Michael Caine's wife. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Michael Caine's wife has been having sex with his best friend,
Yes.
in addition to him having sex with his friend's
And
daughter. Everyone has been having sex in this family, except for Demi Moore.
She's probably grateful.
Yeah.
Right? If I were Demi Moore,
Ew.
looking back on that, I would want to be like, I'm glad I was
So
the
then he's
only
like, well, we're even. Because you slept with my wife, and I slept with your daughter, but we're even. I mean, and then the wife is like, oh, well.
well, Jennifer, again, that I've known you since you were a baby, but, you just, like, were begging my husband. It is so repellent, right? But again, what is so also, if I were, basically, if I were a native of Brazil, because the whole idea, again, is that any social and sexual norms do not apply. So, again, as someone you have known since she was a baby, when you first kissed her, gross, you're already gross, that you can basically, what justifies you having sex, in effect, with your daughter's best friend, who is also your best friend's daughter, is that you are in this, again, exotic place where people are running around naked.
Counts.
I mean, it really almost is this sort of, like, 1920s Margaret Mead anthropology, right? Oh, those, like, quote unquote, those
savages.
wild savages who
Right.
just have sex all the time.
Right.
That's really what the
It
movie, I think,
is.
leans into in such a. It's another reason why the movie is so
If
gross.
only they had Shelley and Amaya on there to tell them about the boundaries. Because the boundaries that exist on Love Island do not exist in Rio. And these are just between same age, consensual,
single, normal
people. They're not between your friend's father and your friend's father's wife.
Yeah. It's so. The movie is so. It's the sort of thing where, obviously, in the 1980s, right, Michael Caine had that run of making terrible, embarrassing films, right? Like Jaws: The Revenge, right, or whatever else.
No.
But it really is so. I mean, I think it's so funny that both you and I remembered that film as being this fun.
Romp.
And
I almost am embarrassed that I texted you and I said, how about Blame It on Rio? Thinking that would be a fun rewatch. Demi Moore, Rio, Michael Caine. What could go wrong?
The only thing that could go wrong is the massive amounts of vomit that were necessary after watching it. Where I seriously, I'm like, I need to puke, I need to take a shower, I need to, like, put Listerine in my eyes. And
But then don't you wonder if everything we saw in the 80s was actually like that?
But keep in mind, I mean, we watched again, like, Fast Times. And Fast Times, it's not like I saw Stacey and Ron doing it and I was like, oh, that looks great, right? When I was 14.
No.
Right. And,
no.
But we can look back on that now and say, yeah, okay, that was a really sort of realistic, right, true to life, sort of moment in basically the same year, right? Or maybe Fast Times were just a couple of years earlier. But this, you really do. I think you watch this film, and again, sort of the film person in me wants to say, yes, it is that exclamation point on this whole run of appalling sort of like sexualized teen films, right? In a bad way. Again, not sort of like, American Pie style. But it also is like someone needs to call the cops. It is so, it really is like the person who wrote that film check the hard drive for the incest porn, right? I mean, it absolutely is like that disgusting and appalling.
It's so disgusting.
It's so disgusting. And so, yes. But very much, as I said, you would never watch that film. This is the last thing I want to say about it.
Okay.
You would never watch that film, right? Statue of Jesus in Rio notwithstanding, which they do show, right? The monster statue of Jesus. But also, right, it leans into this idea that Brazil is not a country, say, of Roman Catholics, right? But Brazil is this whole, like, love magic, right? And the amulets, and the spells.
The voodoo.
I mean, it really is so like over the top, sort of quote unquote exoticizing. Right.
Edward Said would
go, absolutely go crazy. So that's the last thing I wanted to say. So not a good beach movie in the sense of like, yes, beaches make you do like appallingly gross things in Blame It on Rio.
Yeah.
And you immediately have to take off your top in front of your parent.
Your parent and his friend.
And his friend.
And it has a theme song.
That music was terrible.
And I would say, in addition to our worst moments of this movie, unfortunately, I watched some of the credits, which then show you these movies.
Oh my God.
They show you the moments again. Little photographs of more boobs and more photographs of Michael Caine and Jennifer. I'm just like, oh no! Like, why are you showing this again with that horrible theme song?
It was so.
It sounds a little like the Arthur music, but it's not the Arthur music.
Yes, I agree.
Do you know? It's giving
that. It's
giving
almost
those vibes.
Like smooth jazz. Yes. Like someone wrote this in 5 minutes. Like after a line of coke.
It's like pop looks, adult contemporary, but awful.
So. Does though, right, again, leans too much so into the idea again of the beach as this place of like no boundaries.
Right.
And that is probably a good segue to the last thing we wanted to talk about today, which is the 1960 film Where the Boys Are, not the 1984 quasi-remake of Where the Boys Are.
Which is on Tubi if someone wants to watch it.
And I think is probably a Blame It on Rio style appalling sex
Do
comedy.
Not know.
So we can't we
can't endorse that.
But the Where the Boys Are 1960, it really sums up, again, what I think is the big main point of our pod generally, which is that a very old movie, well, 1960, but like older movie. Old to the youth of today. that movie is, in a lot of ways, sort of super kind of like progressive. It seems very modern. It's a movie that is dealing very, very frankly with sex, like actual sexual intercourse, right?
Yes.
And in a really interesting way. And before we sort of sum up the plot, I did want to say that I think that whether it was Darren Star or Michael Patrick Caine, I think that model of the 4 women who had very distinctly different personalities, I do think that was part of the thinking. In addition to, obviously, Candace Bushnell's column. I think that was in someone's head with Sex and the City. I could be totally wrong, but
good call.
That's what I think. That's a suspicion.
Although no casting in Sex and the City has someone who is 5'10" that we know.
That is true. Except for Natasha.
Well,
isn't Natasha
not core 4?
That is true. She's not core 4. So we have 4 young women from a Midwestern college, what seems to be a girls' college, who are going down to Fort Lauderdale for spring break in 1960. And the setup of the film is very much that this is already the hot spot to do spring break, but also the sense that it's kind of new. And obviously you as an American historian know more about that, that it's this new thing that people are going to, but it's tons and tons and tons of students from all over. Our 4 young women drive down to Fort Lauderdale, very different. We have Merritt, who is sort of the heroine, very sweet, super smart, very self-aware, very, very pretty, played by Dolores Hart, who later became a nun. Right. We have then Tug, who is the 5'10", sort of super tall, kind of...
a little on the awkward, although very, very beautiful.
Very beautiful. Paula Prentice, very beautiful.
But less accustomed to dating,
male attention,
and particularly because of her height.
Yes,
it seems like many men have rejected her or just not been interested because she is so tall. Although again, for real, 5'10", we are not talking about 6'5".
Yes.
Okay. I mean, 5'10" is not that tall for a woman, particularly when most of the men in this movie are 6 feet tall or over. Yeah. So, casting wise, it may have made more sense to either make her taller or she doesn't seem that tall in the movie.
Well, but we do have an explicit reference where someone said, it's probably TV, says, oh, well, what about in heels?
Right.
And
she
so
says,
also,
but even in stockings.
Right, I'm 5'10". Yes, but it is very much
again the
depicted
full 5 or 10 of it. I'm just sort of like I'm not.
And she's so like slim and gorgeous.
She's so gorgeous.
Yes, Paula Prentice is very beautiful.
Is really the thing that makes it less believable that guys wouldn't be into her.
But the other thing to me about that is that another member of this foursome is Connie Francis's character. So
Right.
Connie Francis, a very, very well-known singer. This is
Right.
her first film.
Right.
And she's supposed to be this like dumpy athlete
Dork.
field hockey person. And of course she's beautiful as Connie Francis.
The idea that guys aren't going to be into Connie Francis.
Yeah,
and she comes out in that pink dress.
Yes,
and
looks incredible.
She looks incredible.
Yes.
And she's like, am I okay? Or is
Yes.
this
And she's-
funny looking? And she looks incredible.
Yes, and she's supposed to be this total troll
Right.
that like no boy ever wants to date. And of course she sings the very famous theme song, right,
Right.
which went to #1. And then we have the fourth member, Melanie, who is depicted as being sort of naive, pretty, very pretty blonde, sweet, sort of almost kind of like a little sister figure to
Yeah.
Merritt, even though
Yeah.
they're all supposed to be the same age. And so they all go basically
But less bookish and less
But less
invested in
bookish.
college.
less invested in
Merritt
college.
is most
and
likely
less
to
smart.
actually finish college
Yes.
and maybe go on to
Become
do
a lawyer
some-
or
right,
whatever.
to have a career, while the others are destined to meet a man and go to college
And
to
get married, get their MRS.
Right.
But of course, when we first encounter Merritt, the entirety of the movie, she is at risk of being expelled from her college because in a sort of family life class, she has said explicitly to her professor that she thinks women should have premarital sex, which of course is scandalous. She is then sent to the dean, and she basically argues, right, that Merritt argues to her professor that women are sometimes too naive, that they believe they are in love, and that it's good to kind of explore their sexuality before they get married. And again, something that is very striking in the context of 1960,
Yes.
that she is depicted as saying this. And again, so they go to Fort Lauderdale, and hijinks ensue.
Hijinks
Much more
ensue.
wholesome hijinks in some ways, but also really dark hijinks
some
also.
really dark stuff.
Some dark
happening
stuff.
there. Yeah, hijinks ensue. I will say one of the similarities between Love Island and Where the Boys Are is that they all sleep in the same room.
They all sleep in the same room.
There are
Not the boys though, just girls.
No, the girls.
Yes.
But not only are 4, but some hanger-oners,
Yes,
some
they just keep coming.
randos. They
Yeah.
just keep coming. Girls that get drunk and pass out in this room.
Mm-hmm.
And then some girls who couldn't have afforded to stay in other rooms will split more with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
just we have these
so
crashers.
we
yeah.
find lots of girls sleeping on the floor and in the beds, and then all getting ready, and then also the phone calls coming for the
dates.
different suitors pursuing the different girls. So these 4 girls all embark on different explorations with different men in ways that are going along different trajectories. And Merritt meets George Hamilton, who is a brown student and is fabulously wealthy.
Dashing,
and
handsome.
and just all the gorgeous.
George Hamilton looks incredible.
He really does. And he says the first night, "Do you want to stay over on my boat?"
And
She's-
it's very clear what he means.
Yes. And she's like,
no thanks.
I don't think so. And they go through a series of back and forth. Will she, won't she? Does he love her? Does he just want her for sex? Will he commit to her after they have sex, if they have sex? And will they be a real relationship? Or will they just be a spring fling?
Yes.
And there's this sort of fable that goes along the girls while they're there of some girl who came down and met this Columbia guy, and then he
Got married
her.
within a week.
And everyone talks about that.
Yes. And the other interesting thing with Merritt and the George Hamilton character is that she also, we're supposed to think, is kind of asking herself, okay, do I really think that what I said about premarital sex applies to me and me in this situation? Right. And part of it is that then Ryder, George Hamilton's character, he thinks that she is more sexually experienced than she really is.
Right.
Because even though she's a virgin, right, that she has been saying,
She's been dating
dating a lot,
telling him that
and
she's
she
been
tells him
dating
that
a
she
lot.
has had basically, and also been sort of hit on a lot, right, by all these different kinds of guys. And she's very savvy and smart about these different kinds of men. And so I think that's something that's really interesting about that coupling, that he in some ways is doing the kind of classic, I'm trying to get you into bed. And while her resistance is real, the resistance is very much in this sense of being self-aware.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do I want to do this? Do I want it? How do I feel about him? Do I want to go through with this? Which I think is really, again, remarkable. Definitely not something we see in Payment on Rio.
No.
So we have her as this very sort of clear-eyed, very smart person who's interrogating her own willingness to start a sexual relationship, much like in Forever, right? Which we talked about a while ago.
One of the interesting things, though, back to our point about the Joan, what's her name? The singer.
Oh, Connie Francis?
The Connie Francis character. Is a scene where George Hamilton first sees them.
Yes.
Sees Connie Francis. She smiles at him. She looks beautiful. She's sitting in a bathing suit on a beach towel. And he ignores her and goes to talk to Merritt. And I'm sort of like, oh, what a troll. Again, that she's sitting with her. It is really, really crazy that reaction takes place, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my pretty friend."
This happens all the time.
And meanwhile, she just looks gorgeous. Yes. And one can't even imagine why he wouldn't have been interested in her, or what it was about Merritt that made him talk to her and not to Connie Francis.
Yes. And I think it's because Merritt was reading a book on the beach. She was studying on the beach. That must have been it. Or maybe he just liked blondes.
So then we have our Tuggy.
Tuggle, whatever her name
is, who goes out with TV.
Played by Jim Hutton, Timothy Hutton's father.
Right, very handsome. And they sort of go back and forth as well, although in a much more awkward way, because TV is much less suave than George Hamilton.
Seriously.
He wears a bunch of ridiculous really weird
clothes.
hats and ridiculous clothes, and he
carries a radio around,
and he looks amazing when he wears a suit.
He does.
When he wears the suit, he looks amazing.
Jim Hutton was very handsome.
Very handsome. But they go out of their way to make him look like a fool.
Ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah. But still, the two are very cute together, and she's wondering what will happen with him. And she's also made it clear that she is on the path to the MRS.
Very explicitly.
Very much.
She wants to lock this down. This guy she has met on spring break, she wants to get engaged.
Yes, yes. And then he sees this woman, buxom entertainer who's swimming around in a fish tank, who is clearly more experienced.
Very hot to try.
And does a little dance and talks about other experiences, and even has this reference to sex work at the police station, which is kind of crazy. Anyway.
And so he thinks he's going to get laid, and while he's drunk, and he abandons Tug. In kind of a cruel way.
Yes, yes. Especially for that woman who, again, hadn't really put in the time, so to speak. Okay. But needless to say, the two of them come back together. They reemerge happy, and they leave Fort Lauderdale together.
And he makes a point of saying that he did not have sex with the buxom swimmer woman.
Right. Who everyone winds up in the fish tank with.
Yes, and I'm like, everyone's drowning at this point.
It's a crazy scene, and it's crazy that he doesn't drown.
Yeah, well, he does eventually, right, get to the air, but I'm like, he's been down there for like 10 minutes.
A long time, trapped in that ladder.
Yes, he should basically be.
And then
like
the blind guy, which is the blind guy to me, that Connie Francis is stuck with someone who is blind, basically. And I'm not being ableist here, but it's just that he is this character that is really made out to be so kind of like unattractive and awkward,
like this jazz musician who's like weird and pretentious,
and somebody steps on his glasses, and then
but we are basically told this is why he finds Connie Francis to be beautiful, because he can't see her.
Oh my god!
Right? That's how it ends. Where she's like, "Well, I hope your glasses stay broken or whatever," even though I'm freaking Connie Francis.
So strange. It's so strange to me that character is made out to be again like someone who is only deserving of like this like hideous woman.
The only way I can make sense of it, even though I have never read the original novel, is that you have in the original novel, I assume, this character who, again, field hockey captain, right, supposed to be kind of squat and really tough looking and plain, But then someone's like, we need to get Connie Francis here in this movie because it's going to be her film debut and she's going to sing the song.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No,
But then, of
it
course, the
doesn't.
most tragic of the four is Melanie, which is where we have the
Melanie.
darkest stuff happen on our kind of dark spring break here.
I just want to say something about Melanie's hair first. Her hair is so shiny.
It is.
And it is so
Yes.
beautiful.
It is.
And I just don't know how they got it to look like that.
It's like this fluffy, shiny baby hair.
It really is.
Yes.
It really is. I mean, she's quite beautiful,
Yes.
but her hair is spectacular.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
So we have Melanie, who, again, is depicted as being very naive.
Yes.
Has no idea what the difference is between love and sex. She especially is attracted to this story that you mentioned, that a girl from their college or whatever
Right.
has gone down
Right.
and married someone from Colombia in a week.
And she finds Casa Amor.
She Casa Amor, otherwise known as the room where men that she believes are Yaleys. Although I love the idea that at the very end we're told they weren't even Yaleys, because you can imagine Yale like suing, right, and saying this movie says all of our students are rapists. So she initially, very, very quickly, hooks up with this guy Dill from this room downstairs from them at the motel. Lauren and I were talking about this before the pod started, that I think it's very much intimated that she has sex with him right away. She tells him, like, don't say anything. Lauren didn't find it as sort of that convincing. And
I thought that she fooled around with him, did stuff with him. I didn't know if she went all the way. I wasn't sure about that. I don't know whether really it matters or not.
yeah.
At that point in the plot,
At that
whether
point.
it matters.
But then he dumps her. She ends up with another boy, Franklin, and we are privy to these terribly cringy scenes, sad scenes, I should say.
Yeah, really
where
sad.
she's really, trying to prod him, like, oh, do you think everyone else, feels the way we do about each other? And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And
No
she
need for
tells
5
him the
minutes.
story about the girl who got married, and we have all of, again, these painful scenes where she's like sort of what we might say chasing after him. We might use the old
She's a
term
pick-me
boy
girl.
chaser.
She's a pick-me girl.
Pick me and boy chaser. And
Although she does hold up girl code.
yes, you are correct. She does hold up girl. But we also see her do from the very beginning, although they kind of all do this to some extent, right? The whole like, oh, well, I have a date, so I'm going to abandon the rest of you.
Right.
But we see, I think Melanie kind of do it first and most intensely, right? She won't go to the beach with them, right? She won't do these other sort of group things that they do. And it is very much, I think, absolutely intimated that she has sex with Franklin.
Okay.
Because we're told that they go to a motel
go to the
together.
motel.
And then we have, again, the really dark finish where when she's chasing after Franklin, he tells her to meet him at this motel. He sends Dill, the guy from the beginning, and Dill rapes her. She then has a breakdown because of this rape and ends up walking down the highway and is almost killed.
Right.
And ends up in the hospital.
And we also see, just to backtrack a little bit, this group in Casa Amor of inebriated guys getting totally sloshed. By the time she calls him, he's like, yeah, I'll see you later, whatever. Some other guy hears, and then, but it's clear that they are down there at a party and that they are not in any way interested in her in the way that she imagines.
Yes.
And if we didn't get it the first time when she was in the car, right, with Franklin saying, why doesn't anyone feel the way we feel? Then it's hit over our heads the second time that Franklin's like, no, I'm not up for this.
Yes.
No.
And that's a good point because, of course, it's not even the case that he's shown pursuing some other girl.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's this very sort of homosocial, right, that they're all there partying, right? And she even asks, she really is kind of a boy chaser. I hate to use that.
No,
I mean,
she is.
She's like, can I come down to the party? Can I come join you? Are we doing anything? It sounds like so much fun.
all these idiots, all these drunk idiots, you don't want to be around.
You don't want to be around. So he actually comes up with this excuse for her not to come in. But it is very much the case, right, that he sends this other boy basically to go meet her at, and not that we need to think about it, but I guess we could say, well, is he intending to himself meet her and basically screw her one more time? Who knows, right?
Who knows how that all happens.
But we end up having this other man who, in effect, Melanie unwittingly sort of lets into the motel room, and again she has a breakdown. She goes to the hospital. We have this very sad conversation between her and Merritt, where Melanie very much thinks my life is over.
Right.
I'm kind of
Can't go back to college.
Can't go back to college. And what boy will ever want to marry me now?
Right.
And of course that's the interesting thing, right, is that when she has been sexually active earlier in this week, we are led to believe, right, it's because she does think she's in love, right? She's not doing this, this like, okay, we're just here on this crazy adventure and I'll never see these guys again, right?
And she's not a Samantha.
She's not a Samantha. She's not a Samantha.
I mean, she's not like, I just want to get my kicks and...
Yes. But this actually leads to what I think is one of the weirder exchanges, is that, so Merritt and Ryder have a fight about this.
Right.
And then Merritt says, well, I was so afraid, thinking that could have been me, that could have been Ryder. And I'm like, well, you really think Ryder could have, like, raped you?
I know. That's strange.
And so I dislike that it was kind of pushed more into this sort of like, oh, well, she just kind of lost control, right? Sexually. The kind of thing that Merritt has been afraid of with herself before. But I was like, nah, she's just kind of straight up raped.
Yeah.
And George Hamilton should have said, I'm not a rapist. Anyway.
Right.
Anyway.
Or you really think that of me? Don't you know?
Yes.
I've been pursuing you,
and I've been respectful,
and I have real feelings. And then he says, "I'm going to invite you to my prom and my fraternity formal or whatever." And clearly, they have a longer term romance in store.
Yes,
so she can feel safer.
She can feel safer, and that had not been the case earlier. Right. When he's like, "I'm going home tomorrow," and this was just this sort of spring fling. But then you do have this, exactly this, very explicitly, right? This is a lasting relationship. That she has hit the jackpot, right? That this basically wealthy sort of Ivy Leaguer who owns this gigantic boat and is George Hamilton. And of course, as I mentioned, I just love the scene where George Hamilton is wearing his brown blazer. Yeah. There on the beach.
And the brown blazer. Christine and I had talked about this before. This might be one of the only movies where you get both a Brown and a Wellesley reference in the same movie. Both portrayed well. The girl from Wellesley, when they find out she's there, they said she classes the place up. Which I appreciate. And then, of course, the Brown references are all positive.
They are.
So we can't really speak about the movie in terms of doing anything to our alma maters.
Yes, thank goodness.
Although,
and again, Yale for a while is looking pretty bad, right? Where again, it looks as if Yale has not one but 2 rapists.
Well, they also have a lot to say about Columbia because of the guy. Yes, right? They're like, that Columbia jerk, he'll do anything, right?
That is really one of the funny snapshots, sort of 1960s snapshots about that film, I think, is exactly this whole sort of language about the Ivy Leaguers. Right? Like, oh my God, we might meet like an Ivy Leaguer, right? As if that is something. I suppose it was in 1960. But
although they do have an array of college sweatshirts
very
and
much
t-shirts,
so.
and you see Maryland, and you see
all over.
Michigan, whatever.
TV goes to Michigan State.
Right.
And so, and again, we never know what small college they're supposed to go to, women's college in the Midwest, who knows. But yes, I mean, that's one of the fun things about that. And of course, the other thing that is so striking, right, about that movie is that every single spring breaker is white, right?
Correct.
Every single one.
There are no black people in Fort Lauderdale.
No.
Or workers, or hotel staff.
No, there are no Latino people. There's
no.
It is absolutely monochromatic. And again, obviously, I don't know if that reflects 1960 reality in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right, when it was a tiny town. Who knows?
And there were segregated beaches and segregated vacation spots for African Americans during that time period. But the question about, and that may have been more typical of the college goers, of the workers and people and the citizens of Fort Lauderdale, the residents who are living there. Less so. And South Florida was definitely a much more racially diverse place in that time period. Although again, there are these spring break spots that may have been more racially homogenous, but. And again, not true of Love Island, at least my season of it, which most of the cast are people of color. So has changed a lot in that respect in terms of the beach culture.
So do we think then, Where the Boys Are, which again I think is a really interesting movie, is that right? Sex is just talked about so frankly.
It is.
So, but again, in an interesting way, right? I think in a really interesting way.
But in the end, a cautionary tale.
Absolutely a cautionary tale.
Nobody who has sex turns out okay.
Yes, exactly. It is the classic sort of, you did it and now you are being punished, right?
Right.
But very much then this kind of warning, right, to be thoughtful about sex and love, right, to be thoughtful about that difference. Because again, it's not that Melanie is this like slut, right? She's not empowered at all. It's the opposite, right? She is hungry for love. She wants to get married, right? And that she is so she doesn't know herself, right? In the way we're
Right.
consistently shown that
Right.
Merritt and even Tug, right? They know themselves,
Yes.
they know what they want.
Yes.
And even if Merritt is kind of confused about saying, you know, am I willing to explore my sexuality? They are much more thought, even while they're drinking and partying and sitting on the beach.
Go as far as saying they probably aren't going to have sex until marriage.
You know what? I can actually see. I can see Merritt if she is engaged
okay.
to Ryder.
Or
I can see that.
Engaged.
Engaged.
Some
Yes.
some sort of ring, some sort of commitment.
Yes, commitment. Yes. If the invitations have been sent out.
Yes. Yes. If the monogram has been decided upon,
Yes.
the china
the
has
silver
been picked
has
out.
been chosen.
Yes. There's
Then
no
yes.
way that Merritt is having sex with George Hamilton, as much as she may want to, without, again, a ring
Yes,
on it.
without a ring on it.
No.
So, but we do then, is it fair to say, I mean, we do or we don't, do you think, have this idea of like, they are someplace else, right? So everybody in Where the Boys Are, everybody has come from someplace else, right? Even George Hamilton, whose family has this gigantic mansion there, right?
Sure.
He's from Connecticut or Massachusetts, wherever it is. So we do have this sense that the rules don't apply. Right, in part the jaywalking rules, right? You have this sense of like, oh my god, the cops are getting driven crazy.
And a million people can live in a room
Million
together.
people live in a room
Boys and
together.
girls can live in a hotel together, not in the same room.
But all this like mixing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the drinking, obviously, people are doing their day drinking, right?
Sure.
We don't have people taking their tops off, obviously.
No.
But
no one sleeps with their dad.
No.
Their dad's friend.
But there, what I think is so interesting about it is exactly this. There is this sense of like, spring break, we're going crazy, but with a clearly designed end point of I'm going to meet the guy that I'm going to marry.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which in some ways seems super contradictory, but
does.
that's what we're presented with, I think.
Yes. And boundaries.
And boundaries. And
They're
boundaries.
all setting their own boundaries, but the boundaries exist.
Yes.
Again, it is not Rio where there are no boundaries.
And people want to do the opposite of the boundaries. And that's what I think is also interesting, right? Is you absolutely do have this sense, like drinking is playing a role.
It is.
Right? In that
Sure.
Merritt is like, don't make me another martini, right? You're trying to get me hammered.
Yeah.
Melanie does get super, super hammered. So much so that they have to like make her coffee, right? And put her face under water.
Right.
And so I think that is really interesting.
Yeah.
This sort of like 1960 libertinism that is intended to end in perfect like matrimony with 2 kids and suburban life.
Absolutely.
So,
Well,
it's time to ask Lauren, do you have any beach read recommendation?
All right,
I have a book recommendation. Do you have any beach read
all right,
recommendations?
so I
even
am
if it's not a
going
book
to,
about
well,
the
here's
beach?
something interesting about this book, and I actually tried to read it last summer on the beach, but I couldn't get off the library wait list, so I had to wait until winter. But the book is aptly entitled Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenblum. And what I will say about this trashy book is that it's all the things for a summer beach read. It has people having sex with other people's spouses. It has summer beach frolicking. It has actually quite a bit of tennis, which I will read any book where people are playing a lot of tennis with each other, with pros, and with pros that they're sleeping with. And there are all the things in the makings of a kind of Hampton-esque intrigue story. It is certainly not on the level of highbrow of anything, but it is a fun read, and you probably have read it. Again, it was one of these popular books last summer, but I enjoyed it, and it will take up a few hours of your day. You'll get a nice tan while you're going through it, and again, I did enjoy it. I've been reading it in January, so it kind of took me to the beach when I wasn't on the beach.
I hear you, and that sounds nice.
Yeah.
And you don't need to worry about skin cancer when you're reading it not on the beach.
Correct.
Not on the beach.
Correct.
Well, my book recommendation is also a fiction book. It does not take place on the beach, but it is E.M. Forster's novel, A Room with a View, which I believe was written in 1902. And the reason why I think it is apropos for what we've been discussing is it is about a bunch of English tourists who go to Italy. And the vibe is very much that these are sort of repressed, kind of Edwardian English people who go to this other culture of Italy, which is depicted as being far more open, far more relaxed, about social mores, about sexual mores, about romance. And I think it really is sort of capturing the same dynamics that we have been talking about in our movies, right? This idea that a location sets you free, right? And not just going someplace else, but a particular location. And in the case of Italy, you know, Ian Forster was like, oh, this is this much more relaxed, sort of like, no one's a real Roman Catholic. It's actually much like, in a sense, Brazil in Blame It on Rio, that this is a place where their religious beliefs are more lax. Again, the social customs have sort of fallen by the wayside. The idea that they're much more passionate. The Italians are more passionate and romantic, much as we see in Rio. And it's a wonderful, wonderful novel, but it's exactly this notion. You go someplace else where the people will challenge the boundaries that you have, and you will cross those boundaries. This is what we see in A Room with a View.
And this reminds me, even though this is such a pivot, the Sex and the City LA episode.
Oh,
do that.
Yes.
They serve that function.
Yes.
The girls leave, and the troubles of Big and Aiden and the other things that are going on sort of evaporate. Right? The girls try new things, and they go to the Playboy Mansion, and all seems to be kind of borderless while they're in LA. And it makes me wonder, in a real question, what would happen if the characters from And Just Like That went to LA? Could they be normal again?
No.
They could not get their brains back. Is there anywhere they could go where they would turn back into their normal selves?
No. Only if they had a time machine.
Oh.
Only if they had a time machine. Because so much, I mean, if you think about what was so key in what you're talking about is the experience, right, that Charlotte has at the Playboy Mansion, where she thinks she's ready to be sort of sexually licentious, but then the guy's a creep who just says something like,
Can I buy you some boobs?
Can I buy you some boobs? Right? And then she's absolutely horrified and will run back to Trey and this life. And so I think that I don't see that there's any.
I guess I'm just trying, you know.
I know.
As I said to Christine in the beginning of this podcast, I'm living through And Just Like That trauma, and I don't know how to get out of it.
You know, it's like in 1984, right, where Big Brother tells the citizens of, Oceania, we have always been at war with East Asia, and we have never been at war, whatever. It's the same thing with Big and Carrie and Aiden.
Oh, no.
We have never been married to Big. We have always been with
20
Aiden. Propaganda.
years.
20 years. Oh, we've been together 20
years.
And Miranda doesn't say at that moment, what the hell are you talking about? 20 years.
You were together maybe 2 years.
Maybe.
And
Maybe.
then you did not talk to this man until after your husband died.
Died. Died.
It is so
5 minutes ago.
Mystifying. I'm sorry, listeners, if we have pivoted off.
It's so.
But it's just in the back of my mind, and then sometimes comes to the front of my mind, and I curse, as Charlotte says in the first movie, I curse the day I watched And Just Like That.
Well, before we go on another 45 minutes, we should probably end our episode now, as tempting as it is to keep going. So,
listeners, if you're going to the beach, have a great time.
A wonderful time.
And make sure not to sleep with your friend's father.
Don't do that. Don't do that. And you should probably try to keep your bikini top on, but if you want to take it off, you be you.
You do you.
You be you.
You do you.
You do you.
Until then.
Harpies
out.
We see the echoes of the past across the land.